I don't know why I like it. I just always have.
This is a conscious effort on our part to open the creative envelope, so to speak, in order to entertain you in a more contemporary manner. Even though we call ourselves sports entertainment because of the athleticism involved, the key word in that phrase is entertainment.
Vince McMahon has lost his mind. The man doesn't have it anymore.
We in the WWF think that you, the audience, are quite frankly tired of having your intelligence insulted.
Have you watched the television show lately?
We also think that you're tired of the same old simplistic theory of good guys versus bad guys. Therefore, we've embarked upon a far more innovative and contemporary creative campaign that is far more invigorating and extemporaneous than ever before.
Because while Doink the Clown had a green hair and a rubber nose, Stone Cold Steve Austin was drinking his first beer in ECW, damn you. Oh, we got attitude. You got nothing, man.
As the times have changed, so have we.
Welcome back to Beyond the Beermat, the podcast that is very interested in the stocks and shares. What we mean by that is the beer stocks and no sharing.
Too right, man.
My name is Stuart Quigley. Alongside me is Bill. And it's been an absolutely hectic week in the world of wrestling when it's quite funny. The whole world is shut down. The whole world is locked down, whereas WWE continues to give us the drama both in and out of the ring.
I'm surprised you've not been released on this podcast, to be honest.
Fired myself.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm in charge now.
For those that somehow haven't heard the news, there is, and it's always the case around this time of year after WrestleMania, the post-Mania release, sort of release-a-mania, as it is. And you and I can think of it very simplistic ways in terms of just like, okay, this is something we've seen before, but given the circumstances, it's a little on the nose.
Yeah, it's bad timing, really, isn't it? The thing is, I don't think people would have a problem if what was going on in the world wasn't happening. It's just bad timing that people are unemployed and they can't go and get work elsewhere.
I think one of the factors that we have to bring into this, in the run-up to WrestleMania, it was just all about getting to WrestleMania. Now, it's the new normal. Now this is what wrestling is going to be like going forward for the WWE. And there is a small part of it that, like, you think you get to WrestleMania, you're like, okay, can we shut it down now? Because, you know, what is there? And it went from, oh, fair play to them for putting WrestleMania on, to you're putting these people in danger now.
I think that sentiment was there before WrestleMania, wasn't it? But now this has gone on and they've got the okay from old Don to carry on as essential workers for some unknown reason.
I believe that unknown reason was a big bag of money.
Did it have a dollar sign on the bag?
Yes. You can't say anything when Trump's sending out the checks and he had to stop sending them out because he wanted to put his name on them.
Loves a lot about himself, but there we go. But now the big class is essential work is ridiculous, isn't it? And I think we've both spoke about this. If they were going to unionise and stop, now is the time to do it.
It's a combination of factors. I mean, I'll get onto this slightly later when I talk about the implications with some of the releases, but there isn't a guy there in the position of we could all rally around him. I think maybe The Undertaker, if he stood up and said, okay, we're not going to put up with this shit, then there would be some like clout behind it. But I don't know if there's anyone in that locker room that would have quite the same resonance. And like, I've got to be honest with you, when Seth Rollins starts defending the company on Instagram, my eyes start rolling and thinking he's a bit of a bootlicker, to be honest.
Bit harsh. The only two that could stand there and say otherwise are, I think, Rollins and Reigns. The rest, maybe Randy Orton as well. Cena. I tell you what, this list is racking up quickly here, isn't it?
I think Reigns is a good example, but at the same time, you saw what happened when the show itself was about to go on and he removed himself from that a week beforehand. At no point was it seen of like, I'm going and I'm going to try and take a few people with me. And I'm not accusing him of saying that he's going to just take everyone and go home. It's not quite like that. It's literally about preserving the health of these people, because at the end of the day, for as much as we enjoyed WrestleMania and for as much as like we need this kind of entertainment, if you want to call it like, oh, we need it, then yeah, that's one thing. But as soon as these shows are back to normal, no one's going to give a fuck about bumping in an empty arena.
No, they're not. I hope Roman's got a big house that he can take everyone to, by the way. They're recording the shows live again now, aren't they? Or supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah.
If you're going to do it, they should be recording a batch of shows in one go. If they can. get a month out the way, see what happens next month, and judge it then. They shouldn't be calling people to fly into Florida every Monday night or every Friday night and making them record for 2 or 3 hours at a time. It seems daft with what's going on.
There is a suggestion, and I'm not sure this is even backed up credibly, but something in the idea of the contracts for the television shows that they have to put out X amount percentage-wise per year, and they're just trying to get to that number.
Ah, fair enough. I'm sure, given the circumstances, they could try and renegotiate with the network, rather than just walk up to Donald Trump and hand him the swag bag.
Yeah.
But there you go, isn't it? Oh, Vinnie Mac and his political wife.
We've got a WWE Hall of Famer in the White House, and I've got to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen anything as outwardly dodgy as I saw that guy giving a speech about them being key workers the other week.
Yeah, that's true. Perhaps Vince McMahon is still angry about that hair versus hair match, and he's trying to work his way into the seat of power.
The corona, it was me all along.
I would accept that. He was on about injecting something with a poison, so perhaps he got the injection bit wrong, but the poison's there.
You mentioned about this idea of recording once to try and minimise the risk for everyone and allowing it to wait a month and see what happens then. That's what AEW were doing, isn't it?
They are. They've stopped production, haven't they? They've shut down production there. They were doing that, yes. So I'm not sure when they've recorded until. But they're trying to change it from having a live audience show into any other TV show now, aren't they? They could completely change the format into a TV show, as they do here. Although, even so, here they've shut production down of some big soaps. So if they're doing that here, then it's not okay to carry on in Florida, is it?
I find it interesting as well that on top of that, both AEW and WWE, for as much criticism as WWE are getting, AEW less so because they're going by a lot of the measures more strictly and not just throwing the swag bag out there, but both of them are still carrying on the product on screen. And I've got to say, like, in terms of creativity with what you're doing on screen, we're coming up and we're seeing some of the most creative stuff we've seen for a long time because they have to.
Yeah, they have to. I think it's been good. I think the production value of both shows has been excellent.
And also as well, you want to talk about something to look forward to, because this is the thing with wrestling. It's like we started talking about what we're going to talk about on this podcast with everything that's gone on in the last 7 days. I'm ready to absolutely destroy him. I'm ready to go all in on Vince McMahon. I'm ready to call him everything under the sun. And then they go and throw in corporate money in the bank, climb the building. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm falling again.
That looks good, man. You can't just get the elevator either. You need to climb ladder after ladder. 65 stories in the air.
Yeah. But like, that's the thing I'm saying in terms of like the on-screen product. It really is forcing them to go in directions that they would never go in if everything was just as it always was.
When they told they could only record in certain locations. So, I suppose if you own the building, you can't get kicked out your own building, can you? And
this is one of the reasons why us as fans, for as much as everyone wants to go down one aisle of solid criticism or one aisle of, oh my God, I can't believe this, it is always more in between the two. I actually commend the way they've gone about putting the show on, but the circumstances in which they're doing so is ridiculous. And the problem you've got, that is why you end up hammering Vince McMahon and all the corporate bullshit more for releasing everyone. Because at the minute, I'm prepared to give them so much goodwill. I'm going to be like, do you know what? WrestleMania, I understand the circumstances. Whatever show you want to put on, I'll be grateful for it. So I'm giving them all the goodwill, and then in return, what they do is just slap me in the face because there's no room for morality in corporate America. You're right there. There is no room for morality, but can you tell me one of those wrestlers that you're going to miss? Heath Slater. Well, okay. Can you name 2 wrestlers? No. Keep going, just keep going. No, seriously, I'm going to defend them a little bit here. Because if this wasn't going on, those same wrestlers would have been released. Rusev beside, he wanted out anywhere, he wanted a new contract or wanted out. So that's why they've let him go. But the thing with Rusev is a doubly worse scenario because of the fact that not only is he like a smart favourite, but also he donated 10 grand of his own money. Yeah, he's a nice guy. That is a bit of a kick. But I'd say if he wanted out and they weren't going to renew his contract, then he's probably the only one that I think will go straight into AEW and they'll push him to the top of the card. He's got it, hasn't he? I'm not sure what the WWE never saw in him, but he's got something there. Well, he's from the same school as Zack Ryder, isn't he? Got himself over. Yeah, you are right there, actually. They don't like doing that, do they? They like doing it themselves, and how stupid and ridiculous, eh? I've bet you X amount of money, but no. Up yours. Yeah. Okay, in terms of, you say, they do it on a year-to-year basis, and I get that. It's just a fact of, and it comes down to, I mentioned the word morality. Fundamentally, they didn't have to do this.
Morally, they didn't, no.
No, even financially, it doesn't really make that much of a dent in their bottom dollar.
What's it say? It's saving them $700 and something thousand a year. 740, did I read? Something like that. That's quite a big chunk of change, isn't it? Million quid.
One Goldberg appearance, maybe.
Yeah, but I like seeing Goldberg pretend he can wrestle still for 33 seconds.
It just sounds really hollow when you're saying, "Oh, we're going to do it for financial reasons," when they're prepared to throw money away for part-timers every other 6 months.
I agree, but that's in the budget anyway, isn't it? If they weren't the same as every other corporate company, there's a budget there for, I would guess, get part-timers in, make their performance, go away in the sunset. There's probably a budget set there. So that's there for the year. These guys, when was the last time? Gallows and Anderson. The thing is Saudi Arabia, I'm not counting it. They've not been challenging for the tag titles for a long time.
They were kind of a joke, let's be perfect.
Yeah, they were a joke. That's the thing. So Styles doesn't need them. Styles is good enough on his own.
Even stupider with Gallows and Anderson, I heard that they just before Mania signed new long-term deals.
Yeah, I heard that. That's the odd thing.
Do you know what that leads me on to? Is touching on a subject we did a podcast about not that long ago in terms of not just the main roster, but actually NXT and NXT UK. This is we've hoarded all the talent and we're not going to necessarily use it. We just want other companies to not have it. And now that we're in this situation, we're going to let them go because no one can have them. And the fact is we can't afford to keep them because we're hoarding so much talent.
They've always done that though, haven't they? It's like a Premier League club before the transfer window come in. Oh, he's scoring a load of goals, as you do. Oh, stop that. But I think a lot of that talent, I don't think they'll do anything anywhere else. They're not big stars, are they? Really. Kurt Angle doesn't wrestle anymore. Zack Ryder's not a big star.
I guarantee you Kurt Angle has one more match somewhere else.
He couldn't walk the last time. Samoa Joe had to literally lift him into every move.
I don't think, in terms of the list, that there's anyone there that A, isn't going to come back in due course anyway, or B, it's not like Steve Austin's been released in 1998. This is not an Eric Bischoff firing over the phone moment. Like, they're not going to regret it because at the end of the day, they're just going to probably hoover the talent back up when everything restarts. Certainly all the production agents, I've seen the full list of them. There are problems with that though, in any sort of job, opportunity, thing, whatever, there are things that the corporate machine just chews up and spits out. For example, Lance Storm, who will almost certainly get rehired when this whole thing starts up again, he shut his school down. Yeah,
I didn't like that. They basically changed his life to move down to Florida. They've been furloughed, haven't they, the ring agents? They've not been released, they've been furloughed.
For some reason, I don't know why, but I think this works differently in America.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't sound like they're being paid when you're being furloughed.
I don't know 100%, but I think that they don't work now, but there's a loose promise in place to pay them what they were owed for those 2 months in the future. The
contract stuff for the agents, it seems, I mean, I actually do get that as well, from a logistical degree, purely because if you're just running these shows in empty arenas and or on lots somewhere else, you don't need 10 agents, really, because you're not running house shows or anything either. But I would genuinely, I don't think he'll hold this kind of ill will, but you really fucked off if you changed your life for an employer and then they just fucked you 2 months down the road. You expect some sort of pushback in a positive way.
That's the odd one. How long's he been there? 4 months? He's been there 4 months. He's completely removed their life. I would imagine they'll bring him back. Yeah. I would imagine there's an agreement in place. There's a reason to furlough them and not release them. They haven't done that for no reason. There's different employment laws there, aren't there? You can just get fired like that, but have no income coming in after you've moved your life pretty hard.
And also as well, in this current climate where it's actually difficult to get anything going from a wrestling perspective.
Exactly. Well, you can't, can you? You physically can't.
Well, this is the thing I have seen in the wake of everything that's gone on. Not only are wrestlers getting creative in the ring and companies getting creative with what they're doing in the ring, they've obviously got to get creative with what they're doing out of it to earn money, because you're not doing appearances for autographs or you're not going to go to do shows or of any kind. Have you seen all the wrestlers that are on Cameo and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've seen that. You can pay them for an appearance. Well, I'll say appearance. You can pay them for a message.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that actually. We should all chip in and we should get the Repo Man or something.
When Scott Steiner's doing the intro to this program, then you'll know we've got someone. On that note, have you seen MJF's one?
No, I haven't, no.
He's charging $500 because he says, I'm jacking up the price because I don't like you all. And every other one is like $20.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but some schmuck will sit there and go, ha, I'll show him and give him $500. That's the problem.
Yeah. And that makes MJF really smart.
Smart man. Fair play.
But in terms of like the guys that have just been released on that, that's kind of the routes they're going to have to go down in the future.
It is, but how long can you live off $20 a hit for?
It's got to be better than nothing. I mean, what else are they going to do?
That's true.
I've said to you, as we've been talking about this all this week, as the story has broke and then continued to snowball throughout the week, this idea of, I don't think at a time like this, people will forget this kind of ill will. You kind of want to be making smart decisions, even if they're not financially viable, so that in the future, people will look at you as like one of the good companies, quote unquote.
I agree with that, but the current generation of wrestlers, when they grew up, the WWE were the only game in town.
Yep.
So when you were training to be a wrestler, where did you want to go? The WWE? What's your dream? I want to wrestle for the WWE.
But this is the point I'm making, is that if I agree with you completely, but if you're a kid now or someone that wants to become a wrestler now, I think you've got more options in terms of where you would go anyway.
Yes.
And B, any small losses or gains that another company could get that are completely unnecessary, that's where, and that's how an empire eventually gets toppled. I don't think this is going to lead to the end of the WWE as we know it. But what I said to you is that after this is all finished, there's going to be a list of companies that handled it right. There's going to be a list of companies that handled it wrong. And how we spend our money now is going to change in the future.
It is, but when this is all blown over in 12 months, people have got short memories, and they'll forget this. Because I'll carry on watching WWE. Like, numerous times I've said I'm going to stop watching. I carry on anyway. And people will ignore it. This is just the thing at the moment, because no one's got anything else to watch. And everyone's reading the internet for news to see what's happening. This will all blow over at some point.
Okay, granted, I'll give you that. On the consumer basis, it's very easy to imagine a scenario where you completely forget all about this and it goes back to normal. But what about guys that I said that are going to grow up and don't necessarily have to go to the Federation anymore? Are they even going to want to?
I think a few of them won't want to, because of what's going on now. I agree with you. For some people, there'll always be a bad taste in the mouth over this. But I think the majority will still want to wrestle. If your aim is to be the biggest star in the industry, then where do you go? You go to the biggest game in the industry. And AEW might be there in a few years, I don't know. But at the moment, it's not.
Oh no, the gap is far too big, but it's just a case of, I'll give you an example. I don't think that he's kind of had a rough shot both ways. EC3, both times he's been in the Federation, it's been a complete joke. And he's got more than what he's shown on WWE TV. I'm not saying he's next Stone Cold or The Rock.
Yeah, he's got something though, hasn't he? I don't understand why they can't use someone that's got that talent correctly. Someone like Eric Young, I could see it. Because he's a small guy and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he's got much.
This is like taking the EC3 example to the extreme degree, though. I believe not only is he a guy that's got the talent in terms of charisma and actual wrestling ability that we've seen elsewhere, not in WWE. I seem to recall him being on the Edge and Christian podcast where they talk about the mind he's got for the business as well and the way he talks about it. And all I'm saying is that like if you're WWE and you end up creating about 5 Cody Rhodeses, maybe one AEW isn't enough, but 5 of them.
I know what you're saying.
Wrestling's a weird business to create enemies in because, I mean, in 2020, like, all corporate is whatever it is, but, like, if you're working for Pepsi, someone that you fire doesn't create, like, a rival drink and it's, like, going to get anywhere near it.
Panda Pop's got close, didn't it? But...
Oh, definitely, yeah.
There's 2 games in town, aren't there? There's not room for 3 or 4, are there? We've seen that in the past. Everyone called Ring of Honor the third company. It was never really, was it?
Actually, yes, it was, but it just had its own real bad press that stopped it from getting to another higher level. And then the booking sort of with TNA taking some talent and obviously WWE taking the more indie darling talent, they were left with a bad deal and really made nothing of it, which is understandable really when you're left with nothing. I don't actually think that EC3 would actually like end up starting his own company or anything, but what I do think is he'll never sign again.
You say that. No, I think you're right now. I don't think he will sign again. But if someone dangles a carrot in front of your nose and they offer him enough money, would you turn it down? Just out of spite, would you turn money down?
It would depend, obviously, on what that carrot is. But it is that age-old quote that we use far too often, which is, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, can't get fooled again. You know, that George Bush classic. If he gets it in his heart that he is completely done with the Federation, Vince McMahon, Triple H, everything, right? What's he going to do when he's talking to like kids coming through? He's going to just put them off. And that's where you lose out.
Yeah. If someone offered me the money and they told me don't sign for them, but I really wanted the money, which I would, I'd take it. No one could put me off. Unless it's someone that got beat up in the locker room every single day.
Okay, in this instance, because we have sort of spoke about this before off air, but I'll give you the example that I was lacking in my own head because I couldn't think of someone like you could point to, whereas now I can, which is Dean Ambrose.
Yes.
He decided to take less money. He decided that wasn't for him, and he's decided that even though his wife works there, to turn his back on all that. Now, you've already got Cody Rhodes and all that trying to prove a point. You've got Dean Ambrose turning his back on the money. I just feel like if maybe not in the immediate future, but in the medium to long-term future, you could end up in a situation where it's like, all we have to do to avoid this trouble is just not fire these guys at that time.
I agree. The Ambrose thing is a bit different though, isn't it? Because he was paid off with the creative process. That's a bit different. We'll have this conversation. Put it in the diary. We'll have this conversation next April, and I bet everyone's forgotten about it.
When we're still in lockdown.
Well, I'll be in Los Angeles. I don't know where you're going to be.
I like the idea, by the way, that in this scenario, coronavirus is still going on, all the shows are still cancelled, but you get to LA because it's fully open.
Man, I'm going for WrestleMania, regardless of if the wrestlers are there.
The answer will be 0.
Correct. Yeah. No, but if we talk about this in 12 months' time, no one will mention it. No, it's a shame, and they've done it at the wrong time. But their stock price has gone up, hasn't it?
Unfortunately, I believe that's how capitalism works, yes.
Everyone loves a good bit of capitalism, don't they? Yeah. It's the way the world should work.
When I used the word earlier, morality, it's like every time there's something morally wrong, the stock prices go up.
Exactly.
But then, okay, so you're saying that people are going to forget about it in 12 months' time, but you raised a good point not so long ago, which was the idea that because WWE are the only game in town, the scrutiny with which they're under in the short term is going to be a bit more vocal than it would be at any other time.
It will be, because no one's got anything to do, so what's the best thing to do? Bitch on the internet about something?
That is what we do.
Because everyone's an expert on the internet, aren't they?
Not only the internet, but wrestling, even though you've never stepped into a ring.
Exactly.
Natural industries, even though I don't own a company, I am experts in all three.
I've technically been in a ring, so there we go. I haven't wrestled. I've taken a couple of falls on that wrestling. That makes me qualified.
I sat next to a ring. I was on the front row, so yes, I know everything.
Everyone loves a good moan about the WWE anyway, don't they? Even though everyone comes back to watch and they still moan. This has been going on since the creation of the internet.
Okay, I will say this much, right? And I don't want to get too far away from wrestling because this could end up another hour here. But a lot of people have said there's a certain pub chain in the UK that they won't use in the future because of the way it treated their staff. And it's a similar situation to this. Do you think there's any truth to it whatsoever? And even if there was, would it reflect at all on what might happen to the WWE?
Well, when that pub chain opens, I'll be there at 9 a.m. waiting.
Get them to put the network on so you can fuck everyone up at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. The answer is no, I don't.
Okay.
Everyone that moaned about that pub chain will be back in that pub chain.
I'd like to be a little more romantic and a little less cynical about that, but I agree with you completely.
How long ago was that hashtag cancel the WWE network?
Was this about the Saudi Arabia stuff?
Yeah. And what happened? Did everybody cancel the network?
No.
There we go then. When they got stuck in Saudi Arabia, moral outrage. They'll never go again. Let's make sure that don't happen. You watching WrestleMania? Yeah. Why not?
Nothing else?
Nothing else to do.
Do you think, though, in a way that, considering the criticism they came under for all the Saudi Arabia stuff and the criticism they're coming in for now, it does go to show you that a lot of people are going, I can't believe this has happened, but at the same time, it's not like Vince doesn't have history of going against popular opinion.
He's always done that. As long as I've watched wrestling, he's always done that. What was the Screwjob 97? Then he had the steroid stuff before that. He's always done that. In fact, if you go back to the territories, he even did that then. He walked out of the NWA meeting, and everyone knew what was coming, but he didn't care. He just went and did it anyway. And it turns out he was right. There we go.
In terms of, though, all the things that Vince has done, and just as we wrap this up, I do want to touch on this briefly, because in and amongst all the releases, and in and amongst everything that's happened, one of the stories that, I mean, it's there, but there are lots of talking points going around, so it's not finding the right home in terms of focus as perhaps it ordinarily would. Can we just pull one out, give a shout out to the XFL, RIP one more time?
Rest in peace, XFL.
Yeah.
I was enjoying that, actually. There's a couple of rounds I watched. It's not quite the NFL, but it was alright.
I enjoyed the idea that, I think in the first game, they had a kicker who missed a field goal, and they immediately interviewed him afterwards, and it was like, well, that was a bit shit. And he went, yeah, it was a bit shit. And it's, what do you expect him to say, first of all? But I like the idea of catching him immediately.
Yeah, it is good getting in someone's face when they're pissed off or upset or happy. It's brilliant.
They usually give you eloquent and well thought out reasoned answers and not just emotional outbursts.
I don't know, you miss a field goal, you should be sent off and things like that. Add some more rules. The X is for extreme.
In fairness though, I remember the last time the XFL went down, the NFL took a lot of the stuff, specifically camera work and the way it was presented on TV, to improve their product. So I do wonder if anything will be taken over this time. But the one thing that I did want to ask you before we wrap this up, which, given the circumstances, does actually lend itself into the industry as a whole, but it's not something anyone's asked, or not something I've heard anyone ask. When the XFL went down the first time, the networks didn't trust Vince McMahon enough, so that WCW didn't get its own show. Are there any ramifications of this from the XFL going down again, or is it all just bad luck and the fact of everyone will just look at it and go, it was a casualty of Corona?
I think it's a casualty of Corona, isn't it? I think that's all anyone will say. I think any business that goes down now, regardless if it was heading that way or, well, the airline industry, how are they going to survive after this? There are a lot of airlines in trouble, just as an example. But if they go down now, what's going to be blamed? Corona. Not bad management. So I don't think the XFL was in decent shape, wasn't it? Before this.
It wasn't groundbreaking, or it wasn't like a way to take over the NFL anytime soon. In a weird way, I think the current day XFL product compared to the NFL was a little bit similar to AEW compared to WWE. Nowhere near the popularity or the focus, but it was there and it was running in and of itself. And I saw a post on Twitter from someone that had been released when they got rid of everybody, and it was every person that worked on it. It wasn't like trying to slam Vince McMahon or slam the company or anything. It was just basically saying everyone that worked in that from top to bottom was really trying to give it their all. And I don't think it would have gone anywhere, but it looked like this time around at least it was here to stay. And then obviously this happens, and it's just nah, everything's gone.
Yeah, it got bad press the first time around, didn't it?
Trying to take on the NFL in the first instance is
yeah, they shouldn't have done that. That was silly, wasn't it?
And the idea that, I don't know what the right word is, but people thought that with it being Vince McMahon at the time, it was like rigged football.
Okay.
And it was storylines in American football, like wrestling is fake sport. I don't know how, but in 19 years, we've gotten to a point where even though Vince McMahon's involved, there's slightly less stigma with him, I suppose, which is ironic given all the stick he's got this week.
Yeah. I've only seen a couple of rounds, like I said, but I think the product was taken a bit more seriously. Oh, you said the camera thing in your face. I think that's a good idea. But
yeah.
It wasn't like a wacky pillow fight or anything, was it?
I didn't see all 4 quarters, but at no point when I watched it.
No, there weren't. But if something's failed twice, you shouldn't go back and do it a third time, should you?
Are they not going to sell it on, though, or are they going to just try and resurrect it again?
So Vinnie Mac's 74 now. Let's say this blows over for 2 years. I was going to say, do you really want to start a company up when you're 74? But who the fuck wants to start a company up when you're 72?
All I'll say is this much. When Vince announced the XFL was going to be debuting in 2020, I remember at the time going, that's fucking ages away. And the time between when he announced it and it starting felt like nothing. So I don't think he's got an issue with waiting a couple of years.
No, that man's timeless like Mr. Burns, isn't he?
Yeah, basically.
Indestructible, that character.
And so the XFL is, along with many other hopes and dreams of certain wrestlers this week, just perished into the dust. And hopefully this story does end with, I don't know, maybe not all the members of 3-man band being world champions someday. But when Heath Slater does come back and finally gets his redemption, then we'll know that this was all worthwhile.
Hey, he needs to get himself a beard, and that's what the other two did.
Sure, actually, yeah.
So beard and get jacked. That's the key to success.
I've got to be honest with you, a lockdown, everyone's coming out of this with beards, so if he doesn't have a beard, he might have the look Vince is looking for. This has been Beyond the Beermat. The XFL may be gone, everything else may be gone, but we're still here. We're still giving you the content that you need. Follow us on facebook.com/thebeermat, twitter.com/thebeermat, instagram.com/thebeermat. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you again very soon.